Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Michael Schenkel, and I'm the chair of ANC 2C. I'd like to welcome you to our July 9th, 2024 ANC meeting. ANC meeting. And I'm going to ask hi, Nancy. I would like to ask the commissioners to introduce themselves if they could.
Sure. Becky Strauss for 2CO2 for K Street downtown.
Yep.
This is Thomas Lee for 2C03, Penn Quarter and the National Mall.
And I'm Mike Schenkel for 2C01 for Penn Quarter and Chinatown. We do have one vacancy on our ANC, and that's for 2C04. Just to let folks know that the Board of Elections has opened the ANC nomination process for individuals who are interested in running for a position. That requires you to visit the DC Board of DC Board of Elections. And did I say education before? DC Board of Elections, and fill out a candidacy form. And at that point, you will be required to collect 25 signatures from individuals living in the SMD that you wish to represent. So those are open. And I believe the final date to file your 25 signatures to be included on the ballot is August 7th, I believe. I believe it's August 7th. But please check the DC Board of Elections website for more information. We do have 3 of 3 commissioners present, so we do have a quorum this evening. And I would quickly like to review tonight's agenda. Oops. Okay.
Motion to approve the agenda.
Oh, I'm going to put it up here. Sorry. Maybe. Sorry about that. I was prepared and then I'm not prepared. So tonight's agenda, we have the approval of minutes. We have our treasurer's report in which we will be potentially reviewing our quarter 3 financial report. We will hear from our general bodies of individuals. I know our police department may not be present this evening due to the NATO summit and them being fully deployed. We will also have a special update from the DC bid. And we have 3 items of business this evening. One is local events that impact the community, the Army 10-miler race, and 2 updates regarding the transportation and public space activities. With that being said, is there a motion to approve the agenda?
Motion to approve the agenda.
Is there a second? Seconded by the motion by Commissioner Strauss, seconded by Commissioner Lee. The agenda is approved as published. Treasurer's report. Let's delay. Okay, we're going to delay the treasurer's report. Not a problem at all. We're going to delay that and come back to that at the near the conclusion of our meeting this evening. I do not believe that we have anybody from MPD2 on this evening. Lieutenant Garvin emailed and said that he was not able to attend tonight. Is there anyone from MPD 1 on this evening? Which I imagine will be in the same position. Okay. Do we have a representative from the mayor's office tonight? We do not. Our normal or our regular MOCR, the mayor's office liaison, Christopher Powell, has changed positions and is no longer with the mayor's office. And we do have a MOCR manager who is going to be joining us as they replace the MOCRs for Ward 2. And that's Tade Abilla, I believe. That is how you pronounce her name. But she will be joining us from the mayor's office during our next meeting. Do we have representatives? I see Maddie is on from Councilmember Pinto's office. Maddie,
Good evening, everyone. Can you hear me okay?
we can hear you just fine. Thank you.
Wonderful. I'll just give brief updates tonight. As many of you know, it is currently the 75th annual NATO Summit, which will occur from today, July 9th, all the way to Thursday, July 11th. So we are working with major impacts to traffic and parking, specifically around the convention center area, White House, and downtown. So as I'm sure you all have experienced today, keeping in mind time for extra travel time as different heads of states will be moving around in the next few days. We also expect some protest activity as well. So if you see something suspicious happening, please report that to MPD via 911 or texting 50411. I can also send the information about text alerts specifically for the NATO summit. I know that everyone's been a bit delayed in running around recently with different security checkpoints and all of that. I'll just give another quick update on the budget. 2 weeks ago, the council took their third and their final budget vote on the FY25 budget, and Councilmember Pinto prioritized improving public safety, revitalizing downtown, supporting small and local businesses, expanding education and youth opportunities, and supportive housing. I know I've been talking about the budget for a long time now, so I will drop the link to our newsletter in the chat, which comprehensively goes over so many different final outcomes of the budget, but I'll just highlight a few. One is funding for a new Ward 2 Senior Center. Councilmember Pinto previously had started the Ward 2 and Ward 3 Senior Wellness Task Force, which has been meeting for the past year. And this will allow their recommendations to move forward to create a center in Ward 2 and a second location in Ward 3. I know at the last meeting I was asked about a location for the center. So the task force is currently working with the Department of Aging and Community Living, or DACL, to find a location and engage an architect engineer who will be tasked with assessing the feasibility and identifying and recommending locations for this senior center. But as the council members, the representative on the task force, we would be happy to take any proposals that you all may have from the ANC for this location. Another budget highlight would be establishing a nonprofit security grant program. This ensures that organizations can seek safety and security supports amidst a rise in hate crimes and violence against racial, ethnic, and religious groups. Local nonprofits will be able to access funds to, say, hire a security guard or implement a different type of program outside maybe their area. And then another grant We've established grants for Chinatown businesses, specifically to support long-term lease agreements for both existing and new businesses to enhance the neighborhood's cultural heritage. So those are just a few, and I'll drop the link for the entire list of final budget outcomes. So with the budget now complete, the council has the rest of the week before they recess. So we had the last legislative meeting today. And as a reminder, the council recesses from July 15th to September 15th. This means that there are no hearings, roundtables, and that no new legislation can be introduced. But the council is very much working otherwise. It's more of a legislative pause. So keep reaching out to us with any of your needs, and we'll be in communication. I'll just highlight a few things that are happening this week of interest to the ANC. So last week, the Committee on Public Works held a hearing on the amplified noise legislation that we've discussed before. Our understanding is that the committee will receive additional input from executive agencies during the recess, and that will help inform whether Councilmember Nadeau, as chair of the Committee on Public Works and Operations, will mark up this bill as soon as the council returns from summer recess on September 16th. Councilmember Pinto is strongly advocating for this bill to be marked up and passed this fall. But written testimony on the amplified noise legislation can still be submitted until July 17th. So I'll send that information in the chat as well. If anybody would like to submit written testimony to support the amplified noise legislation, we'll make sure you get all that information as well. And then tomorrow there'll be a transportation and environment hearing on the moped legislation that we've been discussing about enforcement. And so the hearing will happen actually Thursday, July 11th, but the deadline to submit testimony is July 25th. Okay, I'll stop there, and I'm happy to take any questions from you all.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that update. We really appreciate that. I'm just thinking about the senior center, and I know that we have the location, the Green Court location, which is currently in the process of potentially being developed by DHS as a location. And I know that Eleanor Harms Norton recently put forth information or suggestion on potentially giving the property at the corner of 10th and H, the old school, back to the district, which is another potential place for a senior center to go. So I'm just putting that forward as suggestions off the top of my head.
Thank you, Chair Schenkel. Appreciate those, and we'll bring those back to the council member and the task force.
Thank you. Commissioners, do you have any questions? Are there any questions for community members, either in person or online with us this evening? Sure. I'm sorry, just so that people online can hear you, we are asking.
Hey, how's it going? I'm Lucas from downtown DC Bid. The Webster School right now is part of GSA. They're in the process of selling it. So if that is a possible place for the senior center, you're able to apply for the purchase of it. And if it falls within their guidelines, it's actually gifted is not the right word, but there's no sale price if it falls in with one of their categories. So if that's a possible option, you should look into that.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Appreciate that update. Thank you so much, Maddie. I appreciate that. I don't see any other questions from community members. So thank you very much. Stay cool. And next up, of course, is Lucas for the downtown bed. Um, could you email it to me? Oh, you're on the Zoom? Sure, go ahead. I will, yep. You are able to share. There you go. Perfect. Yeah, if you could just use the mic, that would be great.
I appreciate coming here today. I really think this is a great platform to continue to showcase a lot of the work that we're doing around the bid that really impacts our stakeholders and residents. I like to bring this information and not to brag about the work that we're doing, but really to amplify it because I think a lot of times it goes overlooked, the support that we provide the city. And I wanted to continue to really provide impact for our stakeholders. So this is just in the Chinatown Penn Quarter corridor. And I like to do the month over month so you could see the work that we're doing. So in June, we collected over 5,300 bags of trash, totaling 32,000 pounds of trash and recycling. We've removed over 106 stickers, posters, graffiti, which is down from the previous month. I think a lot of that has to do with the continuous work of our team, and we're beating the amount of posters or graffiti that's making it up. Obviously, you walk around, you're able to find a lot of that. You're able to see those things, but we'll continue to really tackle that and create impact. Our clean team provided over 1,700 hours to the Chinatown corridor. That a lot of that work is through trash hauling, street sweeping, power washing, unhoused outreach. So those are some of the things that are being done in those 1,700 plus hours of clean team impact. Our safety team had a total of 1,400 hours in the last month. Our safety team, which was launched in April as part of the Safe Corridors grant that we will also be applying for in 2025. And then the completed routes was over 800 routes that our safety team did in the month, which are essentially throughout the entire Chinatown's Penn Quarter corridor. We did a total of 6,800 checkpoints. Checkpoints are essentially corners throughout the corridor that once they pass, our safety team passes, it checks that, hey, the individual has come through this area. We did a total of 500 business wellness checks. Those are very critical because I think that allows us to really get an understanding of what some of our stakeholders are dealing with on a day-to-day basis. And they're able to report any challenges or problems to the bid. And then we're able to work with our partners and the DC agencies to really remedy those when possible. I also wanted to share one additional slide because I'm coming here. We're applying for a grant for street art and public art. This is one of the projects we just did on E Street between 6th and 7th. I don't know if many of you are familiar with that building, but that building for many years has been graffitied and postered on the storefront windows. And this is what we just did to it. And here's the video of the completed. It was a total of 12 murals that we just completed in collaboration with Luther Wright, who's a local artist. We want to be able to do this on a bigger scale throughout the entire bid, including the Penn Quarter, Chinatown corridor. And hopefully I will be able to get a letter of support to show, to be able to apply for this grant. We're working with street art for Street Mankind, which is an organization that does a lot of murals around the world, usually with impact, and they highlight any challenges or issues around the country through their art. And we believe art could be used as a beautification and activation tool. This block for many years looked horrible. With the new art, it really has changed the feel and the look of the block. And now more visitors and also the stakeholders around it are really happy with the work that we've done. So that's some of the impact that we're doing on a day-to-day basis. We will continue to work very hard for our stakeholders and our residents. And if you have any issues or challenges, please reach out to me. We're here to support, in whatever capacity we can, whether it's being a liaison to our agencies or partners, or just to be able to provide any solutions through a lot of the work that we do.
That's great. Just a question. When do you need your letter of support?
The grant is due on the 22nd
Of July?
of July. I could send you an email
Sure.
tomorrow just to bring it up to the forefront. I'm also going to be looking for some signatures. I'm going to need a total of 75 signatures from business, community members, which I think we won't have a problem with. And right now we're in the process of identifying 5 locations throughout the bid. 3 of them will be in the Chinatown Penn Quarter corridor that will have beautiful murals like this along buildings in the bid.
Great. Is this from DEMPED or the?
The grant is the CAH. What is it? Arts, Humanity.
Arts and
Yeah,
Humanities
yes.
Commission? Got it. Got it. Okay, terrific. That's awesome. I think the murals look great. I think beautification like this is awesome. And I'd like to just move as a commission that we send a letter of support for the bid to continue to place murals in the Chinatown area.
Second that?
Seconded by Commissioner Strauss. And all those in favor? So 3 of 3 commissioners voting in favor of that. So we'll get a letter together. If you could send me like a little blurb, that would be very helpful.
Oh, I really appreciate it. And just so you know, I will continue to bring the information as we identify locations. We are partners in this. So even though I have a letter of support, we will still continue to bring it to the meetings just to be like, hey, here's what we're thinking. Are there any concerns from the community around this? So that's the approach that we'd like to take moving forward. We're partners in this together, and I'm a firm believer in that.
That's awesome. Awesome.
Thank-
The building that is at 6th and E, I know that was at one point thought to be converted into apartments, I believe. Do you know what
It's still the it hasn't, the transfer of ownership hasn't occurred, but there is some planning in the place for a retail place that is very needed in the Chinatown corridor,
Good.
and then for housing.
Awesome. Sounds great.
All right.
Thank you so much.
Thank you
Lucas.
so much for having me. I really appreciate coming to the meetings and being part of the solution.
Awesome.
Thank
Thank
you.
you so much. Next on our agenda, I would like to, I see we have online with us our Ward 2 State Board of Education member, Alistair Chang. I saw Alice.
Hello, hello.
Hey, how are you?
Thank you for having me tonight.
You're very well. Thank you for being here.
Hi. Great. Yeah, thanks everyone. Hi, I'm Alistair. I'm your Ward 2 rep on the State Board of Education and appreciate this opportunity to share an update with everyone tonight. As you know, my top priority on the board is to advance literacy. I've spoken about this with you all before, but we saw a huge drop during the pandemic, and it left us at only 26% of DC 4th graders and only 22% of DC 8th graders at proficient in reading, according to our standardized tests. And that's not acceptable for us as a city, and certainly not as the capital of our country. The last time I got to speak with you, we had just published recommendations by OSCE's Early Literacy Task Force, which Councilmember Pinto worked very closely with me to set up, and I appreciate her leadership to make that happen. Commissioner Schenkel, I am not able to share this link, it looks like, to everyone, so I'll pass it to you first. And so
I will distribute.
thank you. Today, I'm excited to share with you that with unanimous support from my colleagues on the State Board of Ed, as well as from the Mayor's Office, from Council, from the Chairman, we secured funding to implement the first step of these recommendations. And appreciate many of you for your help in keeping this a priority for the city, especially in times of we're not at our best financially as a city, and I think it's especially in those times that we need to be prioritizing these basic investments, and especially evidence-based investments. So my focus now that this first phase is funded is really to make sure that the funded programs and the associated legislation is actually implemented with fidelity, and would love your help to keep that momentum going and to continue encouraging the chairman and the mayor to funding these evidence-based literacy investments. Since the last time I presented to you all, we have also voted to approve new social and emotional learning standards, as well as our first ever financial literacy standards. We've also hosted public engagement sessions, expert panels, and presented recommendations related to artificial intelligence in education, math excellence, and certainly a top issue right now is chronic absenteeism. We have a few staff changes that I think are of note that, for the commissioners and for the community members here, I think to let your constituents know and your neighbors know who are involved with local public ed. We recently appointed Kimberly Humphrey as our new ombudsman for public education, and I really think of the ombudsman as a resource that is underutilized, and hope that you'll spread the word that we have an ombudsman. It's under the DCSBOE office that is there to help mediate issues that come up for any parents, students, as they deal with our school systems. And in our office too, we have a student advocate as well that's there to really advocate and help you navigate public education questions. We also have had our superintendent, Dr. Grant, who worked really closely with me to advance these new literacy policies and investments, is stepping down and taking a new role at Harvard. So really want to take this opportunity to thank her for her service in the role as well. Our meetings are on the third Wednesday of every month at 5:30, and welcome everyone and anyone to testify with us, as well as to submit written testimony. What's helpful there is it goes into the formal records, and it gives me something to cite. Also, another one for you to share, Commissioner Schenkel, is a link to my newsletter if you want monthly updates on what I've been doing and what's going on with the DCSBOE. And of course, please don't hesitate to reach out if you have any questions. My email is alistair.chang1@dc.gov. Believe it or not, there was another Alistair Chang who worked for city government before I got this role, who spelled his name exactly the same way. So I have a 1 at the end of my email. Please don't hesitate to reach out anytime if you have any questions. Thank you.
That just means you're number one in the process. But thank you so very much for your update. We always appreciate you being here and providing those updates to us. Commissioners, do you have any questions for? Yep.
Hey, Alistair, it's Thomas. What is being done with truancy among school students?
Yes, great. I've I've been thinking about this. So I will say that one of the histories of interventions for student absenteeism actually stems from the literacy world, which I come from. Early on, a couple decades ago, the campaign for grade level reading, which has been this national leader in literacy advancement, found that, of course, one of the biggest variables for reading outcomes is student attendance. And so early on, they started to roll out a bunch of research and interventions geared towards how do we actually engage students to stay in school. Of course, that has taken a totally, their work now has really come to the forefront now that it's a national issue, not just a massive issue in DC. And what they have found, and the group is called Attendance Works, and I really turn to them for the research because they have been, I think, one of the longest standing organizations that has really focused on student absenteeism for all this time, not just now. And what they are finding is there are very few short-term interventions that work long-term, right? And so the things that actually make the biggest impact are having a non-parent, non-guardian adult in the school with whom a student has a relationship with that will check up on that child. And as one of the examples of the things that they have found that make a massive difference. Those are hard to rebuild, especially with high teacher turnover right now, and the challenges that came up with the job of being a teacher that have come up since the pandemic. And so all that to say, we have been, as a city, I think, and the Deputy Mayor of Education, his team is really the one that's taking a lead on this, and I actually do think that they have taken some of that research and they are moving forward with some investments. The thing is, I don't think we're going to see, and none of the research suggests that any of the actually most effective interventions will lead to any short-term gains, right? They're all long-term investments. There are states that I have been looking at, that we have been looking at, that have seen short-term kind of bursts in improvement that are much more focused on holding parents and holding students accountable, right? California, for example, has done that. What they found quickly is that increased student attendance in the short term, but actually then drastically increased the number of students who then families who then chose to actually pull their kids out of the public school system and go to homeschooling, or led them to completely disengage longer term. And so I think it's not that intervention doesn't work, right? I think we just have to think about the balance between what are our short-term levers and then what are the long-term investments.
Thank you so much for that. Sorry, I sent you something by accident, Alistair.
That's all right. And I will.
I might have missed one. I have to go back and take it.
Thanks, Commissioner. I'll drop one more link there.
Sure.
For Commissioner Lee and others to look at. It's a link to the Attendance Work website, which has I think one of the most robust overviews of at least the research on what works.
That's great. Thank you so much. Are there any community questions for our board member? Any one online having a question? Well, thank you very much. We appreciate you being here and providing your update to us.
Thank you so much for having me. Hope you all have a really nice evening.
Thank you so much. Take care. All right. Next up, I will push that link out that Alistair just put in the box for us in just a second. I would like to move forward on our agenda with our special update. This is an update from the downtown DC bid. I have asked Garen Price, the president and CEO, to provide us an update on the activities of the bid over the next, upcoming year and where we are with things. So thank you so much, Mr. Price, for being here with us.
No worries at all. Thank you. Are you all able to see my screen? I'm trying to share here, but I'm not sure if it's showing the right screen at the moment.
Yes, we do see your screen. We're seeing the presentation mode.
Okay, that is not what you should be seeing. How about there?
Yes, there you go.
Much better. All right. My apologies. Sorry for the delay here. And I had a chance to hear a little bit of my colleague, Lucas Umana, who was providing some updates around the work happening in the Penn Quarter Chinatown community. So I hope you all were able to hear from that. There's been so much going on. So I commend Lucas and the team, public space operations team in particular here at the bid, who've been really focused on public safety and upping the ante in terms of cleanliness. And I hope you are experiencing that as well. Thank you so much, Commissioner, for the opportunity to give some updates. I'll try to be relatively brief, but I did bring some slides and some information I thought might be helpful just to cover with you all here today. And then I want to get to what I know is a burning question around the upcoming downtown holiday market. I wanted to make sure to speak a little bit about that and some of the decisions that were made this year and what you all can expect for this upcoming season. But with that being said, I'll jump in here. First and foremost, I think I don't know that I've obviously met everybody in this room, but I've had the fortunate opportunity to engage with a number of community members over the course of the last several years that I've been here at the Downtown DC bid. If you don't know me, my name is Garen Price. I have the pleasure of serving as president and CEO here at the Downtown DC bid. Previously served as our director of public space operations beginning in 2018 and through the COVID pandemic period, and just continue to be encouraged and inspired by what I believe is one of the greatest cities in the world and a really amazing community, and just feel really humbled to be here at a time when we are on the cusp of reimagining, what our downtown looks like for many, many generations to come. I think it's just a really exciting time for cities in general, and I'm really excited to be here in the bid and to be in community with all of you. Just to say really quickly who we are as an organization. I know many of you here might be familiar with the Downtown DC bid. We are considered a private nonprofit organization. We were founded in 1997, and our bid is funded through a special tax assessment for property owners throughout the Downtown DC bid geography, who agree to pay supplemental real estate taxes to help enhance services throughout our downtown core. We aspire and endeavor to make sure that downtown is as clean, safe, vibrant, and economically viable as possible. And so we do that through a number of efforts, including some of the clean and safe work that I referenced that our SAMS team is engaged in, efforts to help enhance public safety, as well as keeping our downtown active and beautified through landscaping and public realm improvements, as well as some really great events. And beginning in 2019, we took over operations and management stewardship for Franklin Park, which is a really great green space in downtown, and hopefully will be the blueprint for many more improved green spaces to come. I'll kind of move us along here. This is just some fun facts about our bid area. If you're not familiar with what the geography of the downtown DC bid is, just really quickly, it's a 140 block area that comprises 530 properties. And it spans roughly from North Capitol Street on the eastern edge of the bid to Black Lives Matter Plaza on the western edge. And then our north-south boundary is just north of the National Mall and all the way up to Mass Avenue. And then it includes the area around the convention center. We are the largest bid by geography and budget at the moment. And so we have a great deal of responsibility in terms of the area that we serve. And we are always just excited by the diverse range of resources and attractions that we have within our downtown core, inclusive of all the things you see here, 34 hotels and museums and the convention center. And of course, we're incredibly excited about our Capital One Arena, which will be home to our sports teams for many years to come. So we're very excited about that decision for our teams to stay in our downtown core. So a lot has happened this year. And when Commissioner Schenkel asked me to give some updates on where we are as a bid and what we're thinking about. I actually was struggling a bit to even frame how to talk about this. I feel like in particular this past year had a lot of ups and downs. I think many of us experienced what felt like an uptick in public safety challenges, a noted increase in terms of the numbers and data around criminal activity, and then also just saw and witnessed a number of businesses that closed for various reasons. Of course, the initial announcement around Monumental Sports considering a move to Virginia really shook us in some major ways. And obviously, we've been working hard since the pandemic to try to bring back the recovery that we know is necessary for downtown to continue to thrive. So it has certainly been a year with a lot of ups and downs, but I'm excited to say that I feel like the stars are beginning to align, and I think it feels like we are moving into a space where there is significant interest, investment, and attention, both from the city and from other stakeholders and partners that's going to help to move us forward. I wanted to share a little bit about just what we are focused on as a business improvement district. Our organization set out to put forth our 5-year plan, which is a required plan that we have to submit every 5 years before the mayor and city council. And so we last had to submit this in 2022. And when we submitted that plan, our board of directors voted and approved on what we identified as 5 big moves that we would zero in on as an organization that we thought would benefit the core of downtown. And so I just wanted to quickly share those with you so you're aware of what we as an organization are really laser focused on at this time. One of the things that we're looking at right now is really thinking about a refreshed brand and how we tell the story of downtown DC in a different and more compelling way. If we want to attract new investment, if we want to attract new retail, if we want to attract new business here into downtown, and just more people coming to downtown, we know that we have to market and brand ourselves in a way that's attractive and that puts us at the cutting edge of doing that. And so we launched a RFP process to help bring a firm in to help us really think through what that branding and marketing strategy should be for our downtown core. We had, I think, over 23 firms that submitted proposals. So there was a strong level of interest for people who wanted to be a part of helping us tell that narrative. We ultimately selected the Gensler company, which is working through that process with us now and is going through a process of stakeholder engagement and a series of interviews and focus groups that are going to help us to refine that brand. We'll share with you, Commissioner, some opportunities to get community involvement in this process. And I think it'll be really important to make sure that we can all lean into a brand and a narrative that we're happy with. Other than the marketing piece, which is a big focus, we also talked about the need to develop a bold plan to help identify some key investments and initiatives to support downtown. That really came in the form of our Downtown Action Plan, which I'll talk about in a little bit more detail in a second. But we're really excited about the support from the city and the council and others around putting money where the mouth is, in terms of making sure that there's real investment in our downtown reimagination work. The third piece that we had as one of our 5 big moves was elevating the Gallery Place Chinatown community as the region's cultural and entertainment center. And so some of the work that you heard that Lucas provided some updates around is part of that effort. I'll talk a little bit more about the work of the Chinatown Gallery Place Task Force and how we're going to continue to lean into that effort to really make sure that there is renewed focus on our Gallery Place Chinatown community. I mentioned Franklin Park. We believe that is an example of what's possible when the city, the feds, and the private sector come together to reimagine and invest in our green spaces. And so we're really excited about leaning into even more investment in urban parks in the public realm. And then finally, some people on this call I know I've worked directly with and have been very interested in our work in homeless outreach services. And we really believe that it's important for us to continue to play a more direct role in helping to connect people to housing. We continue to support the Downtown Day Services Center, which is at the New York Avenue Presbyterian Church at 1331 New York Avenue, and continue to lean into helping connect people to resources and supports, and want to make sure that we crystallize that priority as we go forward. So I promise I won't be as long-winded for the rest of this presentation, but I just wanted to make sure you were aware of what some of those priorities are for us. Really quick, what I would say about the Downtown Action Plan, I want to thank everyone in this room, including you, Commissioner Schenkel, who I know were involved in some of the process around this plan. You can actually see the final version of the report on our website, reimaginedowntowndc.com. And basically, what we set out to do was to talk to as many people as we could around what it would truly take to reimagine our downtown for the future, and redefine what we think of as the central use for our central business district. So this was done in partnership with the Golden Triangle Business Improvement District, which is our neighboring bid to the west, as well as the Federal City Council. And we settled on key foundational elements that we believe are going to be critical for that rebirth. So public safety, making it easy for folks to locate and do business here in the district, focusing on new residential development throughout our downtown, and really helping to improve our transportation network. We also decided that it was important to focus in on some what we called key neighborhood nodes, but really these are pockets for what we're calling catalytic investment. And so you can see some of the neighborhoods that are listed here. I'll talk a little bit more about the Penn Quarter, Chinatown, Downtown East portion of this in just a moment. But all in, we, after complete analysis and economic review, landed on a set of recommended investments for the city that total about $401 million in total over the course of the next 5 years, that we believe, if implemented, can help to generate an additional $487 million per year in annual tax revenues for the district. So we're very excited about helping to actualize this plan and to see it come to fruition. I want to talk a little bit about the Chinatown Gallery Place task force work that is still underway now. I've had the pleasure of serving on the task force as a member of the executive committee, working really closely with the chairs, Deputy Mayor Nina Albert, as well as the private sector partners, Jody McLean from the Edens Group and Debbie Ratner-Salzberg. But there are several areas of focus that we are continuing to lean into. One is visioning, so figuring out what the future vision of the neighborhood can be. Activations, which is all around keeping our Chinatown Gallery Place community clean, safe, and as active as possible with lots of events and programs and art and interesting things that will help to draw people. Looking at business investment and incentives that can help to catalyze new business development throughout our Chinatown community. And then also looking into how we can effectively engage the community and engage in marketing. I'm not going to go into too much detail here because I think you all have had access to some of what has been shared by the task force already. May 4th was a really awesome day. We were actually at the MLK Library. We were able to roll out some of the initial vision ideas that were put forth through some of the consultant work that happened. What you see up here is a map of some of the eight big ideas that came out of that visioning work. And we are now working through an implementation strategy to help make sure that some of these things come to fruition, and really excited about just the potential value add that we will see as we think about catalyzing some of these new investments throughout Chinatown Gallery Place. I won't spend too much time here on some of the Penn Quarter Chinatown safety team works. I believe Lucas may have given you some of these updates already. But what I will say is that we have felt a real difference, and I've heard from a number of our business owners, some of our restaurant groups and hotel managers in the community. They are feeling a difference in terms of just the improved public safety and feel throughout the community. I largely attribute that to the tremendous work of the Metropolitan Police Department, Police Chief Smith, all of our commanders and lieutenants and sergeants who have been incredibly dedicated to helping to increase presence on the street, being just super responsive to issues as they come in and responding in real time. So we've been incredibly just encouraged by all the work that has happened there, the opening of the Safe Commercial Corridor Hub at the corner of 7th and H. But what I'm excited about with our Penn Quarter safety team is that it's allowed us to have more ambassadors in the streets, paying attention to what's going on, serving as eyes and ears, and documenting in real time what they're seeing, what they're observing, and making those connections with businesses on a daily basis so that people know that they're there. When you see smiling, happy faces like the one that you see on the screen right now, that lends into a feeling of a community being more safe. And so we are going to continue to enhance and focus in on those efforts as we move forward. Again, these are just some high-level data points that I think Lucas may have already given you the updated numbers on, so I won't spend too much time here. But we've seen a lot of really great things that have happened with that team. And I would just say, if anyone has any concerns or thoughts or would like for us to, add a particular space or area to our rotation for the team to walk through, please let us know. We're always open to feedback and suggestions and recommendations, and really want to make sure that this is an effort that is beneficial to the entire community. I promise you I will try to move a little faster. I feel like I'm taking up a lot of airspace here, so I'll move through this a little faster than I have been. I wanted to quickly touch on some of the work that we do around economic development and just some of the data collection that we do. We have an annual report that we do each year called our State of Downtown Report. This year's report was released in May, and we had an awesome forum where we were able to discuss it and roll it out with the mayor, council member Kenny McDuffie in his capacity as chairman of the Business and Economic Development Committee, and a number of other stakeholders who are passionate about downtown. And you can access the full report on our website, downtowndc.org. What I would say in terms of just information for you to know and some of the takeaways from this report, on a really high level, what we found this past year, so this is the year 2023 and then the first quarter of 2024. The headline here is the engine's moving, but not quite enough. So we are still the economic engine for the city. We're still a significant contributor of the the tax revenues that help to fuel and fund many of the city's services. But we are continuing to see a bit of a decline. You can see that our overall net fiscal impact has declined by $122 million since the pandemic. And we believe that that is something that we can absolutely reverse if we make the right kinds of investment. But where we're seeing the biggest challenge right now really comes down to our commercial office and ground floor retail numbers. Right now, our office attendance rates are still hovering at about 48% of pre-pandemic levels. And so when you think about the impact of what that means, those 538 buildings that we have in our downtown core, many of those are commercial office buildings. And if only half of them are filled with people on any given day, that's not good in terms of helping sustain the retail businesses that really rely and thrive on those office workers. We also have seen significant vacancy in terms of our ground floor retail numbers. We reached a record high of 25%. So you can visualize and think 1 in 4 of our storefronts are currently vacant, and that's not a good thing. We do have some thoughts and some strategies that we're working with the city on to help activate some of those storefronts with pop-up retail concepts and some art pop-ups and some other things that you'll begin to see in this new fiscal year, but it still remains that we have a real challenge in terms of our ground floor retail. One thing that I'll say that is encouraging, we know that people still want to be downtown. So that is good news. We recently hit a record high in terms of our tourism and visitation numbers. I think we had 32.3 million tourists and visitors. We've seen hotel numbers really thriving and almost at pre-pandemic levels at this point. Boost of attendance at our museums and cultural venues. And we welcome 10 new restaurant concepts and some really outstanding world-class level restaurants that have opened up here in downtown. And metro ridership has gone up significantly. So we're now seeing a boost from 2022 by 54% of weekday metro numbers. So it is showing us that there are still people coming downtown and truly enjoying being in downtown. We want to continue to make sure that we're doing all we can to draw people here and keep them here so that the tax revenues are healthy. I'll move on from the State of Downtown piece and just give a quick plug for some of the work that we're doing now in terms of events and some of our strategic partnerships. I won't name every event that you see here on the right-hand side or all the pictures that you see here, but we have been throughout 2023 and this year really focused on trying to keep our parks and plazas and streets active with activities and events. These are some of the things that are happening now. I would encourage you, if you're not already subscribe to our listserv, we encourage you to do so you can receive our newsletter where we highlight some of the different events that are taking place throughout the downtown DC bid area and highlighting some of the ones that we sponsor. And then also following us on social media is always helpful. We're at Downtown DC bid on Instagram, Downtown DC on Facebook, and just would encourage you to follow those for updates as well. And I would just put in a little bit of a shameless plug in a way for our Downtown DC Live and Downtown DC Summer Flicks events. Both of those take place in Franklin Park. Downtown DC Live is a lunchtime concert series. It starts at 12 noon every Thursday. And the Summer Flicks is a Thursday movie night in Franklin Park that takes place beginning at sunset each evening. So definitely encourage you to check that out. And then one other event that I would just give a quick plug for is another event in Franklin Park called Kids World. So we really were responding to surveys and stakeholder feedback where folks talked about there not being enough viable programming that is focused on young people. And so We launched this first last year with support from Events DC and are excited to have it again this year. We're expecting, last year, I'm sorry, we had more than 7,000 attendees over the course of a 2-day weekend, 44 performers, and 31 different program activations, all taking place in Franklin Park. This year, Kids World is slated to take place the July 27th and July 28th weekend. So we encourage you to check it out, encourage your friends and people you know who have children to come and enjoy that festive and fun event. So those are all of the sort of bid updates that I wanted to highlight for now. The last thing I want to do is just talk a little bit about the downtown DC holiday market. And I know there has been some concern about the bid's decision to move in a different direction this year in terms of our market operator. Sorry, the lights just turned off on me, so sorry about that. And it's not coming back on, so hopefully you can see me okay. I wanted to touch on this a little bit and just make sure to share with you all where we are and sort of what informed this decision. I will also say, I do not intend at all to disparage or say anything negative about our prior operator. Although I will say there has been some misinformation that has been disseminated throughout the community that is not correct, and that I do want to make a point to correct today. But we have, for 19 years, worked very closely with Mike Berman of Diverse Markets Management to support the downtown DC holiday market. He has been contracted as the operator for that event for quite some time. You know, and the history of that event is that the bid started the market, but realized that it could have been, it needed to be bigger and bolder. And Mike Berman, his firm at the time, was the organization that was selected to help really make the market what we know it to be today. And he really helped to grow it. And I someone who worked closely with him in my prior capacity, Director of Public Space Operations, and more recently, I have the greatest level of respect for him and appreciate the efforts that he has done. But I will say that we felt it important to go in a different direction this year. We had, for various reasons, shared with our prior operator 2 years ago that we'd be moving in a direction of competing the supportive resources that the bid offers to help host this market. We put out a competitive RFP, and we went with who we thought was the best possible organization to help us grow the market even further and to hopefully elevate it to a new level. I'm happy to share that the market is happening. Permits have been received, and we're working closely with the city to move forward with plans for this year's market. It is slated to take place on F Street between 7th and 9th, beginning on November 22nd and extending through December 23rd. And it takes place daily from 12 noon to 8 p.m. And I'll say a little bit about the new market operator that we're working with. We received a lot of different proposals, but this particular group, the Maker Show, really stood out to us for a number of reasons. They currently execute markets in Boston and New York City, and I believe some seasonal markets in other places throughout the country, and are really seen as like a leading entity to help put these types of events together in complex urban environments and spaces. But one of the things that they really specialize in is a focus on local makers. So working closely with smaller local businesses, artisans, and giving them platforms and opportunities to be able to sell their wares and market their products in front of new and diverse audiences. And so we were really excited about just the wealth of experience that they bring to the table, their passion and commitment for growing local businesses and customer bases to support local businesses, and their commitment to diversity and really diversifying the vendor pool and the breadth of folks who can be involved in an event like the holiday market. What I wanted to also just say a little bit about, this slide will move. One of the other things that we're excited about, they have already began to invest and purchase some of the new aesthetic complements that'll be a part of the market. And so what you're seeing up here now is some of the infrastructure that you can expect to see as part of the market this year. These are weatherproof kiosks that include raised wood floors, locking security doors, and allow for vendors to decorate in different ways and really create a more immersive experience as part of the market. And so some of the examples of what you see here are what you can expect to see in the market this year. And we're already working with a number of individual vendors who have signed on to be a part of the market this year, and I'm really excited about just the opportunity to sell their products and craft and works of art in some new and interesting spaces and some new ways. And I will say too, one of the other things that's happening, this particular group has what they call an incubator program. And so they're very focused on helping to bring in handmade specialty items, makers who represent people of color, and also have a charity component to their work. And so creating a program where they can have access to these vendor booths without having to pay the same level of fee that other vendors have to sell. And so we're really excited about that program. And just looking to add a number of new and different activations to expand the market footprint. What's been permitted so far is the original location of F Street between 7th and 9th. But we have a few other permits that we're working through now at the city and the Mayor's Special Events Task Force that will allow us to bring some other activations and really fun experiences that are related to the market in some of the surrounding streets. So really excited to work with the Maker Show and bringing all of that to life this season. And I think it's going to be the best market we've ever had. So we're really excited about it and looking forward to it. I have done a ton of talking. So Commissioner, I hope I did not overindulge in terms of what you had allotted for me on the agenda. But I would just offer if there's any questions or anything that folks have for me, I'm happy to answer them. And of course, I am appreciative of the opportunity to speak to you all today. And I think Lucas said it best, we intend to be more present in these meetings. And so we'll make sure that we have a consistent presence here and want to continue to engage with all of you around the priorities of the bid.
Thank you so much. I really super appreciate your update. It has been way too long since we had an update from the bid, and I think this was really a really comprehensive review of what's happening and where you're going in the future here. Just a question about the economics of downtown. When you look at other downtowns across the country, are they drastically different than what we're experiencing in DC as far as the revitalization?
It's such a great question, Commissioner. And actually, the Downtown Action Plan gets into a little bit of this in terms of looking at some other downtowns and what they're experiencing and some of the investments they're making as part of their recovery strategy. We're not that different from a lot of spaces. Many of our cities in the Northeast, in particular, West Coast and Northwest, are still reeling from some of the effects of the pandemic. And so there are still a lot of folks who are struggling in the office attendance and office vacancy space. And then I think as a almost direct correlation to that, you begin to see the challenges around ground floor retail just because of the decreased customer base. So it's very similar in terms of some of the challenges that others are experiencing. I think where we have had a little bit of a bigger challenge here in DC, we are unique in that we have some restrictions to development related to the Height Act and some of the just requirements around building that make it challenging at times to engage in some of the conversion work that is able to happen in some other cities. And so there are other places that are a little further along in their continuum in terms of getting some of their vacant office space out of the market that I think we're a little bit hand-tied around. But what we're starting to see, is one, there are a number of conversion projects that are happening that I think are going to be a real helpful boost for the economy. Just north of the downtown core, and I think just south of DuPont Circle, the L apartments are opening up. I think the ribbon cutting is on Thursday. We have at 13th and L Street Northwest, a new apartment building that just opened up and is bringing 120 new units here to downtown. And so I think all of that, like residential development, definitely helps to shift and change the narrative and sort of helps to generate more revenue just through the people who are here and the engagement that they'll have with some of our businesses throughout downtown. So the story is mixed, and there's good things happening in other places that we can learn from. And some of that we're working right now with DIMPED and folks in the mayor's office to put into implementation for our downtown.
Thank you so much for that. I appreciate that. Commissioners, do you have questions?
Hey, Mr. Price, this is Commissioner Lee. Thank you so much for attending our meeting. Lots of great information, and I'm very excited for all the events that you're planning. I have a quick question about the task force. Do you know what the next step is? Do you know when we might hear back from them, given the public comments that they've received so far? Are they still receiving public comments? And one last point, I went through the presentation again, and I always knew this from the beginning, but the Chinatown component seemed to be needs a little bit more work in terms of trying to flesh it out. Obviously, there's a lot of it just needs compared to the other slides, and I always knew that would be the most difficult component. And there's a lot of, moving parts inside the community that needs to be worked out. And so if there's any one advice that I have for myself would be we should really need to work with the community and that community to figure out, what is the future for Chinatown.
Absolutely, Commissioner. I appreciate that comment, and I agree with you. I think there is an acknowledgement that there's a lot more work to do in that respect. And to your point, I think it's probably the most difficult part of the work. And I think it's important that we get it right. And so you asked if the public comments are still being accepted. I think the answer to that is yes. I believe it's still accessible on the website for the task force, and I believe you can access it on bdowntown.dc.gov. So still collecting public comment. I believe the target for the task force is to have a final report ready this fall. I think the target had been October, and please don't quote me on that. It may get pushed back just slightly to ensure that we have adequate time through the summer to collect all the data that we need to. But I think the hope is to have a final set of recommendations and an idea in terms of a path forward for implementation that we can lean on beginning this fall. Other thing that I will just quickly say about the work, there are a couple of things that I know are happening now. So obviously with the clean and safe aspect of the work, Lucas shared a lot of some of the efforts that are underway, and we're working now to codify some of the agreement with the arena and the city around what sort of additional clean and safe supports come through that investment. And so there's a lot of talk happening now in the clean and safe regard. I think with respect to the activations work, and I will say, and probably shouldn't have a favorite work stream per se, but I'm really excited about the activation work because there are already so many great cultural institutions and partners in our downtown core and who are in this community, and it makes sense to amplify what's happening there. And so we're at a stage now. We have engaged Gel Design, which is helping us put together an annual activation strategy. And then also working with Jody McLean's marketing group at Eden's to really put together what it looks like to begin to market and brand this community's work and the activations that are happening in a more comprehensive way. And so I think those two things, you might see some action happen before the fall, but I'm really excited about building on some of the great activities, events, and festivals that already happen here in the city and looking for ways to improve them. And then I think some of the other things that we're excited about, particularly with respect to the Chinatown community with the activation work, is really leaning into the things that already happen that we know are really strong and great draws for people and times for celebration. So we're leaning into the Lunar New Year upcoming parade to really make sure that it's one of the best ones that it's ever been. We are currently working on a sculpture that will be installed in Chinatown Park to celebrate to sort of finalize the work that was done to support the Lotus Plaza there. And so some ideas we have around markets and other nighttime activations that can happen in that space. So a lot of good things are happening. I think you'll begin to see some of that in the very short term.
Thank you for that. Are there any questions from community members? I have one question that came in the chat. I just wanted to check in the room here. The question that came in the chat was from Julianne. Given that the bid has moved away from a local creative business for the holiday market, what is the long-term commitment and/or vision the bid has to make space for local creative business, whether it is small theaters, galleries, et cetera, can the bid be enlisted and relied on for advice to help connect local individual creative businesses find temp or permanent homes in downtown DC?
Excellent question. So I will start with the end of that question. Absolutely, yes. So that is one of the core functions of the bid, is to help support small and emerging businesses to get connected throughout our downtown core. And Julian, I will tell you right now in particular is a really great time if there are creatives, artisans, makers, small business owners who are looking to activate a retail space throughout our downtown core. This is the best time to do it, and we can actually help directly connect people to spaces and also tap into designated allotted city resources to help make that happen. We are going to be launching a program very soon. I don't want to say too much because it's not finalized yet, but I'm really seeking creatives who want to be in retail spaces. And so that's something we're committed to, and looking for small local businesses that want to grow their business in that way. I'll touch back again on just the holiday market piece. And again, I want to say, none of what I'm saying here is meant to disparage the work of Mike Berman or diverse markets management. But one of the sort of consistent pieces of feedback that we have been receiving for the last several years here at the Downtown DC bid has been the concern about the price point of entry at the holiday market. After doing a review of what other markets were charging and how local makers and artisans were getting plugged in, we have one of the most expensive markets in the country. And so many of the small local makers, artists, and vendors who have wanted to be in this space and have wanted to be a part of the holiday market for many years have unfortunately not been able to get connected there. And so one of the things that we are really encouraged about with our new market operator, and though they're not themselves a DC-based business, they are going to hire DC residents. They will have a local market manager who is a DC-based entity. One of the things that they are passionate about is creating that space for our local artists and local makers to not just be able to sell product, but just to show off their wares and to have more space for folks to be able to create art in real time and to be able to show their product in a different kind of way. And so I think leaning into that is really at the core of what we do as a business improvement district. We want to focus on those small businesses that we want to grow and to expand their market and their reach. And so that's what we're looking to do in partnership with the Makers Show this year. And so I think it will actually help a lot of small businesses and artists to thrive.
Thank you for that. I appreciate that. Are there any other questions or comments? Yes, please.
For one, I'm Jim Swart, and I just couldn't foresee the changing of the Christmas holiday market, and still don't get a very good concept of why the change. But obviously, the change is going to be made, and hopefully we residents and others will have input into what we think of this market compared with previous years. But the issue that I want to touch base on are the 8 factors related to this area and improvement of the area. Obviously, that's a big deal, the 8 big ideas. And I've got the briefing from the May meeting. But one thing I've not seen are the goals related to the dates for achieving those 8 ideas. When I look back at the list of things for improvement of Chinatown, heck, they go back 10, 15, 20 years, and the improvements had not been made or not made. But when will these 8 issues of very importance, and I could go through them now, but everybody has an opportunity to look, but when will those actually be accomplished? When will the first one, the second one, third one, fourth one, fifth one, sixth one, seventh one, eight? When are those, are there any solid dates for, yes, we're going to be completing these things within this amount of time? And that's the only thing I want to mention.
Great. No, thank you so much. Great question. And I apologize. There were sirens going by, so I didn't catch your name, but I appreciate the question. First, I'll say it with respect to the vision plan, just to help level set and manage expectations. You know, those 8 big ideas, right now, they are still just ideas. There is still space for public comment to weigh in on whether those are the right 8 ideas and if those are the right projects for the city to focus in on. So I just wanted to flag that is not a final product, and it's not saying these are the 8 things that will happen. These are the 8 recommendations that bubbled up, and that we are, working through the process now of finalizing what the final plan will be. I had mentioned to Commissioner Lee, this work is not done. We are still working, and part of what you talked about, the thinking around timelines and implementation and funding and who's responsible. Like, these are all questions that need to be thought through and mapped out. And the goal is to have a finished product that would include that level of detail where it's appropriate. So just wanted to flag, we are certainly not there yet, but I think the hope is to be there and to at least have a fairly solid idea of where we are by the fall. So work is still underway to make that happen. And I would just encourage you, if you have feedback around those specific ideas, you can submit it via the website. I don't know if I can share like my contact information. Would love to collect your ideas as well and make sure that it's reflected.
Yes, I can post that. If you put it in the chat, I will repost it.
I will definitely do that. Would love to hear from you. We want to hear from as many people as we can. And so if you have specific feedback or thoughts around which of these should be prioritized or which of them really resonate with you and your neighbors and friends and family, that's what we want to hear. So this is the time to do that. What I will also say, there are some ideas that are reflected in those 8 big ideas that also coincide with things that were recommended through the Downtown Action Plan. I will be honest with you, I think we have a lot of plans that are out there right now. And I've joked with a couple people, I don't want any more plans. I really want action, and I want us to begin implementation on some of these things. And so some of these ideas are things that were even talked about when we did our Chinatown Gallery Place Corridor study and our Parks Master Plan a few years ago. And so some of the elements, the commitments, the dates, the funding, some of that is already in motion. I can tell you there's a potential funding in the upcoming FY25 budget that would help us to begin to implement and actualize some of what was talked about in the visioning plan for the streets surrounding the National Portrait Gallery. So really thinking about how we create sort of a year-long festival-like or market-like plaza that can still maintain some traffic flow, but can really be used to have more year-round events and markets and spaces that engage people. A lot of interest in the 8th Street focus. I'm sorry, 8, like the number 8, but really leaning in that as a space for potential streetscape improvements and a tractor for new and interesting retail and public art and public realm improvement. And so there's some funding that we believe we'll be able to tap into even in this coming year that could begin to see some real improvements along that corridor. And there's just some other things that are sort of in the works. So I sort of suggested at this later, but you might see some movement in some of these elements that are going to just be happening because they were already in the orbit. But that final plan won't be ready until this fall. And then last thing I'll say, and I apologize, I'm taking too much time here. You made mention about the holiday market, and I will just say some of the, I mentioned some of the feedback that had been received by the bid over the last several years around, the high cost of entry and the inability for some of our smaller makers and local artists to gain access. That was one of the pieces of feedback that we're hoping to address. Some of the other things that we've heard, and I just want to flag, lots of conversation and thought about there being more food options at the market so that there are spaces and places for people to, buy and purchase snacks, really looking at ways for it to amplify and connect to some of the local restaurants and not just food businesses, but all of our businesses in downtown, and making sure that there's a connection to that presence in the market was something that we heard a lot about. Looking for more space for attractions, more seating for people and families to be able to sort of engage and pause and be in space. And so a lot of the changes that we're bringing on are really in direct response to some of the feedback that we've received. And I would just encourage you, this year it'll be, somewhat different, but some elements will feel the same. I encourage you to try it out. We absolutely want to hear your feedback. We want to hear your take on how it's going and how it's being experienced. We pay really close attention to any of the feedback that we receive through our event surveys that we conduct. And then we also monitor and look at all the information that we see online. So we get a number of entryways through like TripAdvisor and Yelp and some of the other websites, Google reviews. So we are paying attention to that stuff. The current agreement with our new operator, the Maker Show, it's a 2-year contract. And so, our hope is that we will be looking to compete this process every 2 years. And if it makes sense to engage the same person, great. If not, it may be a chance to move in a different direction. But that is sort of the going principle from this point forward.
Just going back to the plan, the Chinatown plan, is the goal of those plans are to have time deliverable tasks associated with them or activities, and not just a wish list for what might work. Am I correct in that?
That's exactly right. Yep. And I mentioned the 4 different streams. So there's some different levels of specificity that you'll receive for the different streams of work. Sorry, I'm trying to put it on the screen. So forgive me if it didn't show up here. Sorry. So there's like specific stuff for the visioning work. So like the 8 big ideas are a direct product of the visioning stream of work that's happening now. And so there will be some targeted deliverables and recommendations for how we implement some of those 8 big ideas. But then there's also a plan for how we activate the corridor and keep it clean and safe. Also a specific plan for some investments and incentives that can help to draw new business, and then some specific work around how to market and engage the community in better and more creative ways as sort of one of the deliverables. So you'll have deliverable items on all 4 of those focus areas.
Terrific. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. And I will thank you so much for being here and for providing your update to us. I do have another comment in the box, which was the hanging flower baskets look great around town. So I just want to mention that before I post it there. But thank you so much for being here and for taking our questions. And we look forward to continue to work with you as we move forward.
Thank you so much. I hope you guys will have us back. Thanks for the comment on the baskets. We're going to continue to water them and see them grow so they get more beautiful as we go. And, really appreciate the time here today. And thank you as well for the support on the mural effort. We were really excited about that as well.
Most definitely. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I did it again. I know. Oh, yeah. I do it to everyone. Yes, I do. I do it wrong every single time. Terrific. Awesome. Thanks so much. Thank you. We will move forward with the next item of business on our agenda, which is local events that impact the community. This is the Army 10-miler race scheduled for Sunday, October 13th, 2024. Is Travis with us this evening?
Hello, how's it going?
Hey, Travis, how are you doing?
Great.
Awesome.
So thank you for having me. It's actually great to hear all the exciting news and updates going on in your area. And unfortunately, I don't have a great proposal and slides as they all had before me. But I promise I won't hold you long, and I'll do my best to answer any of your questions. So my name is Travis Souza. I'm the operations manager for the Army 10-miler. Many of you who knew Mr. Banker, who retired last year after the race, I had the privilege and opportunity to work with Mr. Banker for the past 4 years. It's my hopes to sustain the relationship, and if there's anything that Mr. Banker has done in the past, please let me know so we can continue that relationship. So we're preparing for our 40th year to host the Army 10-miler in the nation's capital on 13 October. So we'll be operating under the same schedule and race courses as we have been since 2019. So that's the great news. We aren't expecting any changes to the course times. Many of the roads in your area are expected to close by 7 a.m. and open on or around 11:30 to 12. We are diligently working with the agencies in the district to include the police and the medical jurisdictions in DC, Arlington, and the Pentagon, as well as Fort McNair and other local military installations to ensure the succession of this event is carried out in a safe manner. We will continue to use our same cleaning contractor, which we used in the past. So we received numerous positive reports as that contractor is very familiar with our course and they get the job done fast to make sure your roads are open in a time. Other than that, subject to your questions, like I said, we're excited. This is our 40th year. And, we're willing to take on, volunteers and runners, of course. But subject to your questions, let me know if you need anything on my end. My email was in the email that went out, but I can drop it in the chat if anybody has anything from me. If they want to see the race course or any road closures, let me know. I can drop it in.
Could you just remind us, Travis, where the start and finish lines are located?
So the start line is actually on Route 110 in Arlington, right outside of the Pentagon. And it comes through off and it jumps on a key bridge, goes around through the park area, through Independence, back up out to the HOV expressways. And then the ending actually is right in the north parking lot of the Pentagon.
Got it. So they loop through us. All right. Terrific. Well, this has always been a great activity, a great event, and your 40th year, which is amazing for a race. So congratulations on that.
Awesome.
Are there any questions, commissioners? Any community questions? Sure, please.
I'm sorry. Is she talking?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I think her mic may have gone out. She was asking about the number of participants you anticipate, and are there any special activities that are being planned since this is the 40th year?
So the number of participants that we're expecting, we cap it at 30,000. Right now, usually the attrition rate when it comes to it, it's usually under 20,000 that run. Right now for the 40th, there's not much additional planned. There's that weekend's usually full of items throughout. Like there's a ceremony, an opening ceremony, VIP ceremony that they do a pasta dinner at the Marriott in Arlington. We usually broadcast the shadow run, which is held on overseas areas and locations. The youth run is back, so they'll be running that, but actually the youth run is not outside the parking lot in the Pentagon. And there's always it's community. Everyone's in community is invited, around for the award ceremony after it. So there's moon bounces and food out there. There's vendors at the expo that's held at the DC Armory during that time. That's open to the public. So nothing specific for the 40th, but that weekend's always full of activities and everything's open to the public.
Terrific. Thank you so very much. Appreciate that question. And now our mic is back in operation for the next questions. Terrific. I would like to move that we send a letter of support.
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Strauss. All those in favor? So 3 of 3 commissioners voting in favor of that. So we will get a letter of support off for you. Thank you so
Awesome.
much.
Hey, I appreciate the opportunity and thank you all again.
Most definitely. Thank you. Good
Take
luck
care.
in the race.
All right.
We will move forward on our agenda with transportation and public space. We have an update from DDOT regarding the 15th Street Northwest multimodal safety improvement. plan, and I believe David, I think I saw David with us there.
Yes, good
Hey,
evening
how
all.
are you?
Good, good. Thank you for having me.
Terrific.
Just
Welcome.
going to share my screen. Are you all able to see it?
Yes, we can see. Thank you.
Fantastic. Well, thank you. I'll dive right in. So good evening all. Thank you for having me. My name is David Ballack, and I am a transportation planner at DDOT in the Active Transportation Branch. So like Commissioner Schenkel mentioned, I'm here to present on our 15th Street Northwest Multimodal Safety Improvement Project. It's a mouthful. So the project is in its early stages. So we're here tonight to help make you aware of the project, share some of the alternatives that we're currently considering, and of course hear from you and learn about your all's experience with this corridor. So before I get too far into the weeds, our team at DDOT often asks why we are moving forward with select bike lanes. So I want to highlight a few long-term strategic plans that really drive a lot of the work that we do in the Active Transportation Branch. So first is Move DC, which is the District of Columbia's multimodal long-range transportation plan, which really lays out a vision for a district-wide network of connected bicycle routes that serve all residential areas and provide low-stress routes that are safe and comfortable, and really inviting for all bicyclists, from children all the way to seniors. And you can see on the map here, this is from our Move DC bicycle priority corridors, the area that I'm here to talk about tonight, which is around the White House and Lafayette Square, and this connection of the 15th Street Northwest cycle track is identified in Move DC as one of our bicycle priority corridors that we're interested in working on. We also have Sustainable DC, which lays out a goal to get more people walking and biking and less people driving in automobiles. One of those goals is 25% of commuter trips being by bike or walking by 2032. And finally, we have Vision Zero, which really mandates that we create safe and accessible streets for all users. So really, these planning documents really compel us to consider a project like the 15th Street Northwest cycle track. So why are we starting this project? This is looking to connect the 15th Street network. So for users who are heading northbound on the 15th Street cycle track, once they arrive at the intersection of New York Avenue and Pennsylvania Avenue, the cycle track today ends. So if they would like to continue on a protected network, what they're likely to do is turn left onto Pennsylvania Avenue and then turn right and head north on Madison Place by Lafayette Square. And from there, they're able to connect to the existing cycle track network on Vermont Avenue and 15th Street Northwest, which extends all the way up to Meridian Hill Park. But for those who use this network, they are likely far too aware that oftentimes this connection by Pennsylvania Avenue and Madison Place is closed off by Secret Service. There often isn't signs, and it can be very confusing how best to navigate around this area. So if, again, for this example, if you're headed northbound and you see that this is blocked off, you're instead forced into the vehicular lanes headed northbound. You need to cross over because the cycle track today is on the westbound side. So you need to cross over, head northbound, and make your way up to I Street Northwest. 8th Street in this area is one-way eastbound. And so at I Street, you can then head westbound to connect to the existing cycle track on 15th Street. So this, of course, presents a dangerous condition for both people on bikes and drivers. And as I mentioned, this has been identified in Move DC as a priority for us. And so it's something that we'd like to improve. So some of our project goals, as I've mentioned, are connecting the 15th Street bike lane network to offer multimodal users an alternative to Lafayette Square and continue these goals set forth in Move DC and Vision Zero. There's a couple of options that we're considering for these alternatives, and so I'll get into those details a bit more. First up, starting at the south end of the project area at New York Avenue between 8th Street. Today, there is 2 southbound lanes and 3 northbound lanes. The east side of those northbound lanes is an off-peak parking lane. So during rush hour, that becomes a through vehicular lane, but for most of the rest of the day, it's off-peak parking. And then in one of the two southbound lanes, that westernmost lane is currently being used as a pedestrian detour, as you can see in the picture on my screen. There is an active construction and crane there and a staging area. So when we're looking at our proposed alternative here, what we'd be looking to do is extend the cycle track on the west side of 15th Street. So that would enter into where the pedestrian area is located, the pedestrian detour is located today. We have been in communication with the construction company working here to coordinate these efforts with them as well. Moving north, the first option that we're looking at for connecting to the existing cycle track network would be via 8th Street Northwest. So the condition today, as you can see on the screen, there's a parking lane on the south side, which becomes a turn lane at the intersection, a bus lane followed by 2 eastbound lanes and an off-peak parking lane on the north side. So for this alternative, this concept, we're considering a cycle track on both the north or south side where these existing parking lanes are. So this is an area where we're definitely looking for feedback from you all to hear any preferences or any notes on how you see this area being used. So we'd love to hear feedback on that. The other option that we're really considering is moving west via I Street Northwest. So I Street today between 15th and Vermont Avenue, which then becomes 15th as it heads north, has a parking lane, a full-time parking lane on the south side, 3 vehicular lanes, and then a bus lane that becomes a turn lane on the north side. So for I Street, we'd be looking mainly at the south side for adding a 2-way cycle track. This would either be where the parking lane is today and losing the parking, or shifting that parking lane and losing one of the through lanes, which would then add some protection to the cycle track. So these are things that we're considering and would also love feedback on that. But of course, if we head that way, we would then need to extend the cycle track on 15th Street. As I mentioned before, we currently have it on Vermont Avenue, so this would add an additional cycle track that goes north-south on both 15th and Vermont. Today on 15th Street, there's parking on both sides. The west side of this becomes a turn lane as we approach I Street, and the east side is off-peak parking. There are some potential conflicts that arise if we continue north on 15th Street here. Around 15th and H is the Sofitel Hotel, and they have this active lay-by, which they use for their valet services and for loading and unloading of hotel guests and any visitors to the hotels for the many receptions and events that they host. So we really do want to do our best to work with the Sofitel. We've already had a couple of meetings with them about potential options that we can do to make sure that we're eliminating as many conflicts as possible. We don't want to see vehicles moving across the cycle track to access this lay-by, and we also would really like to avoid vehicles stopping in the travel lanes to unload any guests and then crossing through the cycle track. It's just not an ideal scenario for anyone. But these are the options that are being considered, and again, would love feedback on these. So like I mentioned, we're still very early in this project. We're here tonight presenting to you all. We've already begun our traffic analysis on these couple of alternatives that I've mentioned. So we're hoping to wrap that up around the end of July. And then based on the feedback that we hear, we'll start moving into preliminary design, which will take us through the fall. We hope to then wrap up that and come back to you all in the fall to present the alternative that we selected to move forward with. We'll again re-engage you all for feedback, and then move forward with 100% design based on the feedback we hear. And we hope to be moving towards construction in 2025. And as I mentioned, we are already in discussion with the construction that's happening on the 700 block of 15th Street Northwest, where that cycle track might extend to. So as I've mentioned a few times now, we're really looking for feedback. We want to hear about how you all use this corridor, the things that you see, and anyone you think we should be engaging with. Moving forward, we're beginning the process of engaging businesses, like I mentioned, and we still have a ways to go, but we really wanted to make you all aware of this project. My contact information is here, as is Christoph, who is your Ward 2 Community Engagement Specialist, and happy to answer any questions that you all may have.
Thank you so very much for this. And correct me, David, the NOI is not out for this yet, or is out for this, or?
It is not, no.
It's not.
So I think in
This is
June, we
just
sent
early.
out, yes, this is early. So too early for the NOI. We've just shared a project notification letter and then wanted to follow up with this meeting tonight to alert you all about the project and start this engagement, but no NOI yet.
Got it, got it. Could you go back to the map that shows you the H Street location? So you are considering, what is the consideration for H Street?
So we're looking at a two-way cycle track, either on the north side or south side. So where each of these parking lanes are, we're considering replacing one of them with a two-way cycle track.
Got it. And if you come onto H Street, do you need the extra room on 15th Street, or does that, like, I'm confused about where the extra in front of the hotel came with.
Right. So if we were to move west on 8th Street, we would not need to connect that cycle track up towards I Street, because we would have a two-way cycle track, which would allow users heading east or west to connect to the existing network.
Say it one more time. I'm sorry.
Yes.
So
No, if we were to add a two-way cycle track on H Street, we would not then need to continue between H and I Street on 15th Street, because we have the existing Vermont Avenue connection. So if you connect via H Street, you can then head north or south on Vermont Ave.
got it. Okay. Commissioners?
Mr. Bellick, will you be considering moving the, when you go there, I know there's a cycle track on 15th Street on the western side of the road. Would it make sense to move it onto the eastern side of the road? Would that facilitate this plan and the interconnectivity between the existing and future bike paths? Moving from the eastern side to, just moving on the western side of the street over to the eastern side of the street of 15.
Are you saying around like the Sofitel Hotel? Is that something that we're considering?
No, like if you look, I know that like right where the right in front of the Treasury building, the green arrow, I know the cycle tracks on the western side of 15th Street. Would it make sense to move that over to the eastern side of 15th Street and go straight up north until you get to McPherson Square, where you can then move over onto I Street?
Our preference at the moment is to stay on the west side, as opposed to having cyclists crossover traffic and then needing to cross over once again. That would just lead to a couple different conflict points, which we're looking to avoid. But it is still early, so that doesn't mean we can't consider it.
My preference on this, just from my taking the route, would be the H Street location being the turn. That's like a shorter street, less utilized. And I always ran into complications when I got to 15th Street there, when I transitioned back over, as being a problem. So I would actually suggest potentially doing it on H Street versus I.
Great. We appreciate that feedback.
And I don't necessarily have a north or south area.
I assume you're gonna come back in the fall and present the traffic study, so I'll keep my questions then. I don't have anything.
Okay. Any community feedback? Okay, well, you have two questions. We have two questions. Please. And let's hope the mic works this time.
Thank you. Hi, Lourdes Sinejero. So two items. One is how does this model and the potential models that you discussed relate to the development of other trails in downtown DC? And second, and I may have missed it, sorry if I did, is there a date by which decision on this particular trail will take place? Is there a target date?
So I'll start with the second question. Our target for construction, if we move forward with this project, would be 2025. Likely looking at earlier in the year 2025, but no set date for that yet. And as I mentioned, we'll be back again in the fall to present once again once we have some initial designs and have concluded our traffic analysis. And so we'll accept more feedback at that time as we continue to move forward with the project. And as far as the strategic plans that I mentioned in the very beginning, how they advise the projects we work on, those are something that we compile all together and are consistently working on developing which projects that we're working on via those and via community outreach. We're currently working on our FY25 bike plans. So this project does not necessarily directly affect the plans for other cycle tracks, but we're always looking to improve the network and improve on connections. And so as we improve out the project, the network, we then look where we can make the rest of those connections.
Thank you. David, would you mind sharing your presentation with us?
Absolutely. I'll do that as soon as I'm done.
Yeah, and I will think about this more strategically when I ride this area and see how I maneuver this area.
Fantastic. And I encourage others in the room and online listening today to do the same. We would love to hear that feedback.
Yes, that'd be great. Awesome. And when are you looking to get your feedback? As soon?
Sooner rather than later. Yes, we'd like to move forward as soon as we can with a selected alternative so we can begin those designs.
Okay, that sounds great. We'll take another look at this and get you some feedback.
Great. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much. We appreciate you being here.
Thank you for the time.
Awesome. And next up on our agenda is Open Streets 7th Street Northwest, scheduled for Saturday, October 5th from 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. And we have, I believe, Kimberly presenting this.
Hi, good evening.
Hi, how are you?
I'm doing well.
Awesome.
Thanks for having me. For those who may not know me, my name is Kimberly Vaca. I'm a transportation planner at the District Department of Transportation, also our public space activation coordinator. So one of the programs that falls within my portfolio is Open Streets. I have a pretty brief presentation, but I can expand on anything as needed. So I will share my screen here. Let's see, let's hope this works. Okay. Can you guys see everything?
Yes, we can.
Okay, fantastic. All right. So, as mentioned, my name is Kim Vaca. I manage our Open Streets program, and we have partnered with Netium Consultants, who's an event planner. They've been managing our Open Streets program from the event planning side for the past 2 years, and we're happy to partner with them again for the 2024 event. If anyone is not familiar with Open Streets, this has been happening in DC since 2019. We've actually come to 7th Street before back in 2022. But ultimately the goal is to help us reimagine our streets and to see what happens when we prioritize people over cars. Specifically for the upcoming event, we'll be closing 1 mile of 7th Street to cars and opening it, hence Open Streets, for people to safely walk, bike, skate, and scoot, learn about transportation safety, how to navigate the city using multimodal transportation methods, participate in a range of fun and family-friendly activities, from free fitness classes to live music to Faux Marie, which we've brought back every year since 2022 when we first showcased it on 7th Street. And also, very importantly, supporting the local businesses that are along the entire event route, that you'll be able to notice more when you slow down and walk or bike the route. So this specific event will be hosted on Saturday, October 5th from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. So a few months from now. So we're just kicking off our outreach. You all are the first public group that we're talking to. And this will be from the northern end of 7th Street on Rhode Island down to East Street, which spans about roughly 1 mile. As mentioned, and people of all ages and abilities are welcome, as this is a free event. We have not yet posted the vehicle and bus detours, as that is still being finalized, but those will all be on our website, and I'll be happy to share with the ANCs as well once available. But we recommend, if possible, walking or riding, however that looks to you, to open streets, rather than using a car, as 7th Street will be closed, and detours will be in place from 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. So 2 hours prior and 2 hours after the event, to allow for setup and tear down. Courtesy towing will begin at midnight on Saturday, October 5th. So all of our emergency no parking signs that we post 72 hours prior to the event will highlight that starting at midnight, and flagging that this does happen rain or shine. We did this in a hurricane remnants once, so please come on out regardless of the weather. There will be water stations and bathrooms all along the route, not just in businesses, but also provided by DC Water and through porta potties. And again, kind of a wide variety of programming spread throughout the route. Something that we started last year and we're excited to bring back is our bike giveaway. We are giving away 51 bikes for 51 states, DC statehood, to district residents specifically at Open Streets, which includes 22 adult bikes and 29 children's bikes. The form to apply for a free bike is posted on our website, which I'll provide at the end. So any district resident can apply by completing the online form. You just make sure that if you're interested, that you are available for pickup at Open Streets from 9 a.m. to 2:30. We will not be holding the bicycle for you after the event, and we basically give away any unclaimed bikes between 2:30 and 3, the last half hour at the event. It's one of my favorite things that we've added to Open Streets, and I'm really happy to have this continue. And we offer a wide variety of ranges of sizes for both adults and children. Something else that I would love to get your support for sharing, not only just the event details, but the call for volunteers. We cannot host the event without the really, really awesome volunteers that have helped us out in the past and we're hoping come back, or even new volunteers. We have a variety of shifts, from setup to manning the info tents, the activation zones where we have featured programming, to the bike giveaway, to tear down, with shifts ranging anywhere from 2 to 3 hours, but you can work more if you'd want. And as an incentive for working this event and for your time, we provide Open Streets swag, specialty t-shirts. The swag varies depending on the year, but our most highest, best attraction is the free annual membership to our Capital Bike Share system. So after the event, when we confirm that you work the Open Streets, we will send you a free membership for the next year. So happy to highlight anything specific, answer any questions. You can email us openstreets@dc.gov or visit our website for all up-to-date information, www.openstreets.dc.gov. And that concludes my presentation.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Kimberly. We appreciate you doing that. Commissioner Lee.
Oh.
Oh, sorry.
I can't believe this is Commissioner Lee. Thank you for participating in our ANC meeting tonight. I have a quick question. I live at 7th and D, and I believe that in the past year, it began at D Street and then ran north to Rhode Island. And I think you have evidence of that in your last slide where I recognize the Starbucks at the corner of 7th and Indiana. Would you consider moving it down to include D Street? Because I know there's a lot of businesses along that street that I think would be happy to participate in this event. Did you get feedback from them saying that they didn't want to participate? And if not, could you move the start line from E Street to D Street?
Yeah, good flag. You're right in noticing that this route is a little different from the one 2 years ago. It starts north. Last time we started at Pennsylvania. This route has already been vetted by MPD and the mayor's office and has basically been finalized. So we don't have the opportunity to modify the route north or south, as East Street is being used for detours for this. However, I'm happy to work with those businesses to come up with a solution. We prioritize businesses on the event route specifically, but also within the surrounding wards, especially on D Street, which would be right outside of the event route. So I'm happy to work with them. We have not begun business outreach yet. I'm hoping to get that started next week or the week after. And we have a series of business information sessions that we're planning for early August, both in person and virtual, to walk them through how they can participate, what we allow, and the process, which is pretty simple. Something I want to flag for y'all's awareness is a business grant that we provide to businesses on the event route for $250 if they host an activation in the road. So the businesses on the route get priority, but given the proximity, I would be happy to talk with them about how to feature them.
Mr. Strauss.
Yeah, I have a question about the bikes. Are these new bikes or used bikes or bikes that have been confiscated by the city? You know, but because I know there are a lot of those, and there are auctions, I've heard.
Yeah, these are
that have been found, you know, but where are the bikes coming from? Just curious.
Great question. These are new bikes that we purchased using OpenStreet's funds for this event to give away. So that no one has touched them or ridden them ever before.
And can anyone get them? Is it like
yes.
Oh, okay.
Yes, as long as they're a DC resident. So we ask a question in the form just to make sure people are aware that you have to be a district resident. And upon receiving the bike, if you are selected, it's a random drawing. We ask that you bring some sort of verification, whether it's a license or a piece of mail or, you know, some sort of document, your lease agreement that shows that you live in the district.
Yeah, thank you.
No problem.
Very, very cool. I loved this event when I participated in it last time. Did you do this in 2023?
We did. We hosted 2 events last year, one on 12th Street Northeast over in Brookland, and then our most repeated event on Georgia Avenue.
Got it. But you did not do it on 7th Street?
No.
Okay, good. Because I was like, how did I miss that? It was 2022. Terrific. Awesome. So any community comments or questions? I think this is a really fun activity and a great walk up the street, and really it really does provide an opportunity to explore some of the businesses along this route as well. So I'd like to move that we send a letter of support for Open Streets, the Open Streets on 7th Street Northwest.
I second.
And seconded by Commissioner Lee, and all those in favor? So 3 of 3 commissioners voting in favor of that. So we'll get a letter of support off for you.
Thank you. That's amazing. I appreciate your support.
Which one was the most popular Open Street? You mentioned it, but you cut out briefly.
not necessarily the most popular, but definitely the most repeated is Georgia Avenue. We have hosted an open street in every ward up to this point now, and all have been very different in their own way, which we celebrate. We, as I mentioned, we really only use businesses on the event route. We never bring in food trucks or outside vendors that aren't of the community. So it kind of, each one has their own flavor.
Terrific. Thank you so very much. We appreciate you being here and good luck. And we'll, if you send the presentation slides, I can post the call for volunteers on our website.
Thank you so much. I will absolutely do that. And the form should be live hopefully by next week. So that's perfect timing. And commissioners, if I can flag, I know I sent you an email, but ANCs also have the opportunity to host your own booth on the route. So happy to work with you if that is of interest.
I saw that today.
Fantastic.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I see that there's a Pennsylvania license plate behind you there.
Oh, yeah. That's my boyfriend's.
Okay, got it. I was going to say originally from Pennsylvania. So anyway.
Oh, nice.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Commissioners, do you have any other items of business? Treasurer's report. So we'll finish up with the treasurer's report tonight. And I did not do the minute approval either.
Okay.
So I missed that on our agenda.
Okay, we started June 2024 with $67,599.58 in our PNC business account. There was a cash. There was a $788 in expenses for two meeting minute invoices, as well as a $33 surcharge from PNC Bank. That gives us a current balance of $66,816. Wait. Doesn't make sense.
Yeah, you went up.
It went up. Return to our next meeting, yes.
Okay, we'll do that at our next meeting. Okay, got it. So we'll come back for that and we'll do the Q3 financial report at that time, which would be due right after that. All right, terrific. Any other items of business? Yes, sir. Oh, meeting minutes. Yes, I'm sorry. I distributed the May special amendment minutes and the June minutes to you for review. Are there any corrections or additions to those minutes?
Nope. Motion to approve?
Motion to approve by Commissioner Strauss. I'll second that. Seconded by Schenkel. And all those in favor? So 3 of 3 commissioners voting in favor of that. So we'll approve that. Sorry, Jim. Yes, because we have 8 people online. I'm sorry.
Just 2 things. One, if I could ask about the outcome of the school situation related to the marijuana
Sure.
Deal up there. I know that you were going to send a letter of protest. I don't know exactly what happened, but there was something that occurred today in the meeting that has me a little bit puzzled. And that was Brooke's office when Maddie gave her presentation related to funding for a senior wellness center. And that being at the 10th and H Street, the Webster School there, which is currently, I guess, a communication center for.
That was something that I just proposed as a vacant property in the district. Yes.
So they've been trying to find a site for a new senior center in Ward 2 for a long time. And I don't think that they've No, they haven't selected.
They
a
haven't
site.
selected a site.
But we have on several occasions suggested that the Green Court Alley building,
Mhm.
and they seem to be interested. That's on the table. So
Yeah.
that's where we are.
And
Okay.
I recommended that particular building because Eleanor Holmes Norton just got it removed from federal property to be sold,
Okay.
The Webster
That-
building.
the Webster building. That was my,
Been vacant forever.
yeah, that was my just
Yep.
cut off the cuff.
Yeah,
comment.
I didn't know whether that was still owned and
So-
operated by the Secret
I
Service.
I was gonna say, I know that because the Secret Service is right by there,
Mm.
they're
Yes.
the ones that have prevented that from being
Yeah.
disposed to the city.
Yes.
Because I was involved in the new DOT building and some of the things that went on there. And there was a similar kind of building across the street that had, ultimately, it was full of communication systems and that sort of thing for the CIA.
Right.
And it was a terrible situation that required excavation of some of the land because of the communications kinds of things that have been set up there.
Right.
So I don't know what has gone on in that building,
Yeah. I have
what
no
might be
idea.
there, but there was some
Don't know.
It has been,
unusual kinds of things going on because
Yeah.
if they used it for some sort of communications
Yeah.
network, it may not be the
suitable
most
for.
clean.
I
Yes.
building
know, I
building.
know that there have been discussions of turning that into a charter school too, because it was a school building before.
Yeah,
Yeah, it was-
right. But the fellow from the bid, Lucas, said, well, the GSA is selling it. So I don't know what complications, factors are there. But what goes into the senior wellness center?
You know,
I really
I
don't.
know
know
that
too
they've
much
been
about it.
wanting to get more public input on that. There's a whole
Mhm.
committee.
Yes,
And can I put you in touch? I'm sure they would love to have
sure.
someone
Yes,
from
it
board
would
to,
be kind of nice
great.
to know about that because right now, I mean, there's no parking in that area.
No.
There's, you know,
Right.
and people would be coming. I don't know what goes on at one of the senior centers now, but they're scattered throughout the city.
Right.
None here in Ward Two, apparently. Maybe not in other wards either, but I just don't know what goes into that and what impact that would have on some of the local businesses
Yep.
in the area. I mean, city center
Yeah.
and.
Oh, yeah.
And as the businesses, we have the apartment
Mhm.
complex, we have the condo complex. But what does that mean for all of us residents there? I just don't know.
Yeah. I am not certain about what activities happen at the senior center. I know that there is a senior center at the Wall Luck House, which does day programming, meals, special events, for seniors. I know that that happens at that location, but I think that's specific to, Wall Luck House residents or
Right.
community
it
members.
is, Yes.
And this would be a broader,
Mhm.
community kind of location, but I don't know what exactly happens
And are
there.
there any other thoughts related to use of that
Yeah,
building for living areas, condos?
Well, So I am
apartments,
sure, so you're talking about the Webster
Mm,
building. So
yes.
I am sure that DemPed, right, is salivating over that site. Like, it's not gonna be something like, we're gonna decide. It's
Mhm.
the DC Development Agency for a very, very long time. They wanted to take control of that. It's really valuable property.
Yes, it is. Oh,
So,
It
Yeah.
definitely is.
right, so it's up to them. I mean, if you, I'm sure they have some way of, some person at DemPed you could talk to and they would know. But also say, I know that the GSA, about 6 months ago, they announced a whole list of old federal buildings that they wanted to
Mhm.
sell.
Right.
And that will take years. So
Mhm.
this isn't something that's gonna happen like in 3 months. It'll happen in 2 or 3 years.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you got plenty of time.
Oh, all right.
Yeah.
Okay, well, thank you very much.
Sure.
But just an area of concern,
Yeah,
like what is it? How will it work?
Yeah.
What will be there?
do not know.
What will it take to clean up that property now? What's it been used for?
That's,
This communication system, there
Yeah.
could be some radioactive
Right.
I mean,
kinds of issues,
Yeah,
like there
Yep.
was with
the other one.
several others.
yep,
in
I'm
the
sure
city.
DemPed is really thinking about it. Yeah.
Did you
You know
say
what DemPed is?
dump head?
Oh, sorry,
Yeah.
so DemPed is the economic development agency for the city.
Okay.
So they work with developers,
Oh.
you know, they're the people who think about real
Yeah.
estate in the city government.
Well, it's interesting, the acronyms.
Yes, it is. The,
Mm.
the other great question about the update on the school situation.
Mhm.
The ANC protested the application related to the marijuana establishment going in across the street from the school. We protested that. Thomas and I had a very long hearing related to that. I'm still recovering. And we lost that protest. They ruled against
Oh,
us
okay. My
in
goodness.
that protest. We have appealed that process, and we had acquired at our May 31st meeting, we voted to move forward with retaining a law firm to represent us. And this has gone through a variety of iterations right now. It is still before DC courts. They are in the process of arguing whether we, as an ANC, have standing in that matter because of some restrictions that ANCs have related to regulatory, we're advisory in nature. So there's some briefs that have been filed on us and how we can potentially get standing in that process. We did apply for a stay to prevent further development of the property, which was denied pending the outcome of what's happening in the courts right now. But that's about all we are aware of at this point.
All right.
But it is still in play. It's a very unfortunate situation that was or is a loophole in the legislation that allowed establishments to, well, that was interpreted by APCA, the Alcoholic Beverage Cannabis Administration, to allow establishments to move around the city to different locations instead of allowing what I refer to as sticker stores, where you could buy a sticker and get marijuana, to become legal, to stay in their location. And even if that location was close to a school or a childcare center, APCA interpreted the legislation as they could move anywhere they wanted to in the city, including across the street from the basis school.
My
So,
goodness.
so
Okay.
we're in the process that is still in the court system, and we don't have any updates on it at this point, other than that they're reviewing those briefs now.
How many schools are within the ANC?
We have, I believe we have 3 now.
That's just not many.
Thompson's in our district, Basis and Thompson, and the what? And Templeton Academy.
Okay.
I think those are the only 3 in our ANC, I believe.
Okay, well, thank you. I
Sure.
appreciate it.
Most definitely. And this is was not playing out. This was playing out in the Palisades in another location.
Right.
It has now appeared in a third location in which something similar is happening in Ward 5 now.
Okay.
So,
I think so.
yes. Yes. So to be determined.
Well, thanks for what you do.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Yes. But thank you. I appreciate your comments. Yes, ma'am.
Well, first of all, thank you very much to all of you for your push and your support of the cannabis retail spot, hopefully not ending up in this area. So thank you very much for your diligence. My question is about the building that is just to the right of the Clara Barton. So in that 600 block of East Street. I've heard different things. Obviously, some things, can be true. Some things may not be. I understand that it's going to be multi-use retail and residential. My question is, what type of residential? And is, other than those two purposes, is there another planned use for that very large building that goes really from, that's between East Street and B Street?
Yeah, yeah.
Thank you.
It's a great question. I'm aware that the building is vacant, that it was at one point, I believe, pre-pandemic, was moving toward apartments, condos, some kind of downtown living piece, and then it kind of stalled. Tonight near the beginning of the meeting, when the downtown bed presented, they discussed putting murals on that particular building and alluded to that it is still in being sold to the developer. It hasn't transferred to the developer for some reason. I'm unaware of where they are with that development and what that's going to look like. I have no knowledge at this point. That was the first time I've heard that things may be happening around that, but I've heard mixed use as well.
Yeah.
And that's in your area.
Yeah, it is. It's right next to where we live, Lourdes, as you know. What I heard was that it's going to be dormitories for Johns Hopkins University. Because their School of Advanced International Studies moved into the museum space. And so they need some space to house all their international students. And so as part of the development, there may be possibly a small grocery store moving into that retail space, provided that we can sort out the loading issue, the loading dock issue.
That's what I thought. It's a great question to try to figure out.
We'll be bringing more people, downtown, and especially toward that part of the neighborhood, which is a little quiet in terms of retail and
That would be a great.
use. Yeah.
Yeah, I know the city has been wanting to do that. It's kind of a conversion, like bringing more universities in. And I know they're trying to make a university district in the Golden Triangle. So I'm sure the city is supporting that.
Yes. Awesome. Any other questions or comments? Oh, we have 2 comments online. Oh, terrific.
Okay.
Ty, would you like to, are you still on with us? You are, there you are. Fantastic. Would you
Hi.
like to introduce yourself and welcome to our ANC?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you. Good evening, everyone. My name is Ty Abilla. I am the new Ward 2 manager with the Mayor's Office of Community Relations and Services. You formerly may have worked closely with Grace and Christopher. They have all both moved on to new exciting positions. And so I'm picking right off where they left off pretty much. So I'm excited to work alongside you all to help make the community safer, better, continue to make sure that it thrives. I have placed my contact information, which I hope can be shared with you all, just in case that you all need to reach out to me at any time. But I definitely look forward to meeting you all in person at the next meeting, as today has been quite busy with the NATO summit and then the traffic within the city. But more often so, I definitely look forward to being with you all in person.
Awesome.
I'm sorry, what is your contact oh, there we go. I'm sorry.
I just shared that information out. So you are I'm gonna probably get this wrong, a MOCR award manager.
Correct.
Okay.
So essentially, each ward will have 2 co-partners. You'll have a liaison and you'll have a manager. Right now, I'm riding solo, but in due time, hopefully sometime next month, we will have a liaison also representing Ward 2 to assist as well.
Awesome. Well, thank you. And I'm glad you got on and were able to introduce yourself. And
thank you very much. I appreciate your time.
Forgive me if you listen to the video afterwards and how I pronounced your name to start with.
No worries. No worries at all.
Abilla?
Yes, Tade Abilla.
Abilla.
Yes.
Okay, terrific. Awesome.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much. And we look forward to seeing you in person.
Likewise.
And we have a hand up, and it's Howard.
Yes, thank you. Well, I apologize for coming on just at the tail end of the meeting. We had a condo board meeting here at the Residential Gallery Place. I'm the vice president, so that took priority. But I'm glad you were running a little bit late. I just want to quickly raise 2 issues. The first is we are hoping to talk to Councilmember Pinto about making the current law, which provides for temporary drug-free zones up to 5 days, to make it permanent. That is that the city can issue an order making certain parts of downtown, particularly the intersection of 7th and H, permanent drug-free zone. For the last 5 days, we've been blessed with quiet, peace, thanks to this city for the ability to impose this 5-day drug-free zone. We think it should be made permanent. And I hope when the time comes, when we do approach Councilmember Pinto, that the ANC will be with us. We're not ready yet to make that presentation, but already we had a condo board meeting and people were discussing how it seems like crime has gone down in the Chinatown area. And, I pointed out the truck-free zone, the Metro fare evasion initiative that was taken, and other things, the term sheet between the district government and Environmental Sports, providing for 19 additional officers before and after events at the arena. These 3 things taken together have made an enormous impact. So I just wanted to raise that with you, Chairman Schenkel. One more thing, and this is, I'm not too proud of Metro. I am very disappointed. Today, as you alluded, the NATO summit restrictions went into effect. Bus service was halted on 7th Street, the 70 series buses that go up to Silver Spring. Sadly, passengers who are waiting for buses at 7th and H, northbound buses, were not told at all what was happening. I called the Councilman Pinto's office. Metro responded with a sign that says we've suspended service. But they don't tell passengers where they should go. What happened to the detoured buses? And I know this is something Councilman Pinto's office is going to raise with Metro. I am so happy with Randy Clark as the general manager of Metro. And today, the system just unraveled. It is so sad. Thank you. Those are the 2 points I wanted to make, Chairman Schenkel. Thank you for giving me your time.
Thank you very much for both of those. I agree that the drug-free zones, I believe, also have contributed to a decrease in crime, drug usage or drug sales, et cetera, in the area. And I found that once that went into effect, there was significant change almost immediately in some of these areas. So I do applaud that. And Howard, I know that at the beginning of the meeting, there was discussion about about a markup of the amplified sound bill that is in the council right now. So there's a markup of that that's happening. So this is an opportunity for folks at 777 to potentially weigh in on that. And I believe that Councilmember Pinto and Nadeau is the chair of that committee. Councilmember Pinto is putting forth recommendations for that as well. So that may be something that you also want to approach Councilmember Pinto's office with.
Thank you. I did testify. I was negligent in not mentioning. I already testified before Council Member Nadeau and Council Chair Mendelson, who co-chaired that hearing.
Got it.
And so we're going to make definite recommendations. We will send you a copy of those recommendations. I think the deadline is July 17th.
Yes, I believe that is correct.
All right. Thank you. Sorry.
Thank you so much. If there's no further items of business, I'd like to move that we adjourn our meeting. All in favor? Meeting is adjourned. So thank you all so much for joining us. Our next meeting will be on Tuesday, August 13th. Same place, same time. Thanks so much, everybody. Bye-bye. Stay cool. You sure you want to stop it?